Hello! So I wanted to talk about why you should join the Air Force Reserves as a graduating high schooler and how joining the Air Force Reserves can completely change your life no matter what path you want to go down. If you want to go to college, if you just want to do a couple years of college so then you could eventually become a cop, joining the Air Force Reserves is the way to go. And I'm always telling people that they should join the Air Force Reserves, and their response is, well, you should be a recruiter. No, because I'm not trying to get the numbers. I just want you to make the best decision for you. And I know the best decision for me was joining the Air Force Reserves. The Air Force Reserves has so many benefits. So you are 99% of the time at your home location. Wherever you grew up, wherever you want to stay, that's where you're going to be. And that 1% of the time, which is 16 hours a month, you do your job that you were trained for, that the Air Force trained for you. A job that you picked when you went to the recruiter's office and you signed on the dotted line. So when you go to the recruiter's office, you're gonna have to take an ASVAB test. So there's a standardized test, you can equate it to an SAT. So it gives you scores on different subjects, and depending on how well or how not well you do on each of the subjects, that'll pre-populate a list of jobs that you're qualified for in the reserves. So depending on where you live, you may only have one reserve base that's near you, or you may have a couple. Each reserve base has different needs. So being able to choose between different reserve bases will expand the job opportunities that you have and are able to choose from, and it will also depend on if there are any bonuses in specific career fields. So if you have a base 1 hour away from you and another base 2 hours away from you, the base 2 hours away from you might have a bonus for a career field that you're interested in, but the unit that is an hour away from you might not have that job with a bonus attached to it. So then that makes you able to make a decision. Are you willing to drive the 2 hours once a month to get to your job? You'll end up staying in a hotel overnight. The next day you'll do your job, you'll come back to your hotel, and the next day you'll do your job, and then you'll drive that 2 hour home. Taking a job with a bonus attached to it is something that I did. So when I was 17 years old, I signed the papers. I was in the delayed entry program. So that means I signed the papers, I was in the Air Force Reserves. My time towards the military was already counting, but the only thing holding me up was that I had to graduate high school. So I did end up graduating high school. I had my boot camp date, which was a week after my high school graduation. But what I did was I picked a job with a bonus attached to it. The bonus was a $15,000 bonus. It is divided up into the however long contract that you sign. So I signed a 6-year contract with the Air Force Reserves with a job that had a bonus attached to it. It was a $15,000 bonus, and it also came with a kicker. So I'll talk about what this means more a little bit later. But so you did have to qualify for that job. So my recruiter gave me a list. You could be a cook, you could be a medical technician, you could be a load master, and he explained what all of those jobs were, how long the tech school was, how long your training was, how long you would be away from home, because I knew that I would be okay with taking about a year off after graduating high school, but that I did want to come back and start college. And the bonus meant that I had that $15,000 sign-on bonus, which is your money. You can do whatever you want with it. But to me, that was strictly just for college. The reason I joined the Air Force Reserves was so I could have that money to go to college. So anytime I seen a check that's substantial, it was me telling myself, this is my benefit that I'm reaping from joining, and that it is going directly to why I joined the Air Force. It wasn't party money, it wasn't, oh, I can buy this or that. So It also came with a kicker, which means that while I was in college using the GI Bill, every month I would get an additional $350 a month. So if you just pick a regular job that doesn't have a bonus or does not have a kicker, then you do not get that extra $350 a month while you're using the GI Bill. You just get whatever your prorated amount is, depending on how much active duty that you gave back to the Air Force. So some of the benefits that I'm going to go over with joining the Air Force Reserves. Number one is all of the educational benefits. So while you're in the Air Force Reserves doing your job every month, so 16 hours a month on average that you're working, so you're working Saturday and Sunday every month, 8 hours a day, an hour lunch. Depending on what branch you join, it's going to vary, but the Air Force is pretty standardized, and 8 hours a day, you get the 1 hour lunch, which is important. So as long as you're doing your job every month, the job that they trained you for. So the job when I joined, I went to technical school for medical technician. So I went to 2 months of boot camp. So it was June, July. I graduated in August. I went to technical training. So September, October, November, December. I graduated that in December. And then I went to, that was like textbook in class, learning how to do emergency medical technician, taking your NREMT. So I did get certified for my nationally registered emergency medical technician. So I finished that program in December. And then I went to on-the-job training. So you go to one of the Air Force bases that they choose, and you learn how to do all the hands-on part. So that was from December. I did have some leave, a couple weeks of leave that I took around Christmas time. So I came back home, and then I went to the Air Force Hospital. I graduated that in March. So January, February, March, about 3 months of hands-on on-the-job training, learning how to do IVs, taking care of patients, labs, the hospital system, how everything works. So you did 3 months. I think we did 3 12s a week, or you could do 5 8s. We did a lot of simulation, hands-on, traumas, working on the ambulance. So I came back home in March after leaving in June. Came back in March. I had my NREMT, so I worked on the ambulance, my local ambulance company. I got a job immediately. I did that full time from March, April, May, June, July, August. And then I started my undergraduate degree in nursing. So everything thus far, I chose for myself. I chose to join the Air Force Reserves. I chose to be a medical technician, and I chose that job because that's something that I had an interest in, and because it had that kicker, that $350 a month, and it had that $15,000 bonus attached to it, which I knew the reason that I joined the Air Force was because I needed help with educational costs. I didn't have $50,000, $60,000 that I was able to just throw at a 4-year degree. And I wasn't even sure what I wanted to do right after I graduated high school. I was interested in business, I was interested in a little bit of nursing, but I wasn't too sure. I didn't know what either meant or how much you would make, job opportunities. I didn't know anything about it. So what's so great about the Air Force is it doesn't just correlate for EMTs becoming aides, getting that internship, and then graduating and working in the unit of your choice as a nurse. It can be any other career field as well. If you want to be a cop, if you want to study criminal justice as your undergraduate degree, you can work in the Air Force as security forces. So you do that every month. You have that training. You've went through the rigorous studying, the academics, the physical conditioning. You've done that in the Air Force. So now, civilian side, you can get a security job. You can do that security job while you are doing your studies in college and you're doing the reserves part-time as well. So you're already stratifying yourself to be different than somebody that's just getting a 4-year degree, getting that diploma, submitting an application, and hoping that they get a job. Because when they bring you guys both in for interviews, they're saying, you know what, I did really good in college, I did really good in this sport in college, I was in these clubs. That is all great and amazing things to do in college, but then you set yourself apart because you say, I went through a military security forces training. I frequently continue to use the things that I was taught every month while I'm in the Air Force. I will, whatever you do as security forces, you're naming off those things that you do continue to use. And you say, I additionally picked up a part-time job, so I'm still doing, I'm doing security on the side, and this is why I want to work at this department, because I have a well-rounded exposure to security forces, to just providing security, and my next goal is to become a cop. So the Air Force it gives you those ins to get yourself to where you want to be. It gives you those conversation starters, it gives you that experience, and it gives you that knowledge. And a lot of, you don't have to exactly do what you do in the military. You don't have to do that civilian side either, which is so great, because a lot of my friends that are medics in the Air Force, because they served in the Air Force, they now have those points when they take their civil service test and they want to become a police officer. They now get that leg up on everybody else because they have those points for military service. So they'll be medic, reserve side, nothing to do with security forces or being a police officer. They'll be a medic, they'll have those points, they'll take the civil service test, and they'll get their job of choice. They'll be a state trooper, they'll work in a local police department. They're getting what they wanted from the military. And if they continue to serve, they'll either get out of the reserves because it no longer benefits them, they no longer see themselves doing it, or it does not work for their family, or they'll switch careers in the military. They'll do security forces, or they'll do something completely different. They can do photography in the Air Force, public affairs. So it's really, the military really gives you a leg up on whatever career that you want to do. You're not going to just blend in. You're going to be that 1%. You're going to be different. You're going to be on the top of your class because you not only did university, you had a side job, and you did the military. How many other of your peers, how many of the other thousands around your local area are doing it? I would guess the top 20.